Hello everyone and welcome to the first video in a two-part introduction to my new Fallout 4 roleplay, which is coming very soon, on October 14th actually. I hope you saw the teaser trailer I released a few days ago. If you haven't, I'll link it below, so be sure to go and watch it. In this video, though, I will be talking about the various mods that I plan on using and also explain to you what type of Let's Play this is going to be and, the various personal gameplay restrictions that I'll be putting on myself to achieve the type of story that I want to tell. If you're not interested in knowing any of this information and would rather just watch the roleplay and be surprised, then by all means, click away from here, don't watch it. However, I will not be answering any questions in the comments of my Let's Play videos that this video has already answered. So, just a fair warning there. I mean, one of the purposes of this video is so that you guys know what my intentions are and, don't have to ask me 100 questions about it, right? But really the main purpose for this video is so that I don't have to break character during the actual roleplay to tell you any behind-the-scenes stuff. Because for this Fallout 4 series, I will be role-playing much deeper than I did in my first one. In my first series, the one with Shane, which you should totally watch, by the way, if you haven't already, I would often break character to talk about the different mods that I was using, or to tell you the reasons why I was doing something a certain way, or to show you my perks, or whatever. Well, I'm not going to do that in this new one. I'm going to be in character 100% of the time. So any behind-the-scenes stuff where I need to talk about new mods or whatever will happen in extra videos like this one when needed. So with that being said, you can probably guess that this roleplay will be all about immersion. And if you've been watching my channel for any length of time, you probably notice that I really like things to be immersive. This roleplay will also be in survival mode, and you may not know that I actually hate Fallout 4 survival mode with a passion, and for many reasons, which is why I never played in survival on my Fallout 4 Let's Play before, because I couldn't mod it to be what it should have been all along, which is what I'm going to do for this new Let's Play on PC. Yes, the new Let's Play, or roleplay rather, will be recorded on the PC with quite a few mods, but all immersive and, all immersive mods. I will be posting a full mod list in the description of each of the episodes, but in this video I will only be touching on a few of the main ones that will bring the most, obvious changes to the game. I can't tell you about all of them in this video, or this video would be 3 hours long. But before I tell you about any of the mods, I first want to talk about some personal gameplay restrictions that I will be putting on myself for storytelling purposes, and they explain a lot of the mods that I plan on using. So first off, I will be playing a female character this time, and I will go into more detail about her in part 2 of this introduction series, so if you want to know about my character before the show starts, be sure to watch that video. I'll probably get it out tomorrow, or at least sometime this week, hopefully. Basically I'll be playing the typical pre-war housewife who is also a lawyer. With this background, she doesn't have the experience of her military husband. When I played Shane in the first series, he knew how to fight, he knew about weapons and power armor, and he even knew, a thing or two about building houses. But my new character is not going to have any of that same experience, which will provide unique, immersive gameplay challenges that my first Let's Play didn't have. First off, she won't know anything about building a house, or building anything really, so I will not be showing any settlement building in the Let's Play. Also, because I'm going for as much realism as possible and opening a build menu with hundreds of options for everything to build right at my fingertips isn't very realistic. So instead, I'll be pretending that the settlers themselves are doing all of the work of building the houses and shops and whatnot. So I'll be building off camera. And then when my character returns to the various settlements, there will have been work done on them since the last time she was there. And at this point, probably some of you are wondering if I'm going to be using the Sim Settlements mod. Well, it does seem like the perfect opportunity to use it, and I agree, it definitely is. However, I'm not going to use that mod. For the main reason that I like to build the settlements myself, and I also want to do a new series of build videos in Fallout 4, and I can't do that, if the settlers are the ones actually doing the work. So anyway, so this is my plan for settlement building. Between episodes, when appropriate, I will make a build video of whatever I'm building for the particular settlement that needs something built. At first it will probably be only Sanctuary, since, that is naturally the first place that will get built up in the show. But it'll eventually include others as well, and they'll probably overlap too. These build videos will be out of character, of course, and they'll be published separately from the Let's Play series. They will be their own series. And, if you're only interested in the Let's Play, you can completely skip the build videos if you want to, and vice versa. Anyway, still on the subject of settlements, going for maximum realism, I will not be building anything that the settlers would be unable to build. For instance, buildings made out of materials that can't even be found in the area. So if there are, like no stones or bricks in the area, then there should be no buildings made of stones or brick. If there are no large metal pieces in the area, then there should be no buildings made out of metal, and so forth. This will actually end up giving each settlement a unique look, since some might be entirely made out of brick or stone because that's what's most readily available in the area, while others will be entirely made out of wood, scrap, or whatever. The same goes for the furniture and other things used in the settlements. Generally speaking, I will be using only furniture that can be found in the world nearby. Especially if there are large pieces of furniture or equipment or something, because it would be hard for the settlers to carry them, to transport them very far, right? And so then I'll be pretending that settlers, just drag them over from wherever they found them nearby. So if there's no furniture like that nearby, then I will use a mod that adds makeshift furniture built from scrap, so it looks like they built their own furniture. And, I will go into more detail about the different settlement mods that I'm going to be using in another video. Otherwise, this one will get way too long. But, so like if there's no chairs or couches or something like that in the area or close by to the settlement, and there are some settlements that are like that. Some have all of the furniture that they would ever need, and some don't have any. If there aren't any, then yeah, they'll build their own. Other things that the settlers will not be able to build, at least not immediately, are generators and turrets, and especially turrets, since they don't even look the least bit homemade, right? And of course in the game, you can just plop down as many of them as you want without any troubles, as long as you have the building materials. In my Let's Play, they will not be doing that. First they will use candles and oil lamps for light, and then eventually windmill power and other alternative forms of power, which will be provided for mods. I've got a mod that lets you use batteries to make generators with. And later on, if my character finds a generator or a turret out in the world, then I will play that she tags it for the settlers to come and get later, like with a beacon. And then, there will be that turret or generator in that settlement, and only in that settlement. She would have to get other ones for the other settlements. I might eventually roleplay that one or more of the settlers learns how to build generators and turrets, but it won't be immediately. There's going to be a progression of technology, you could say, in the settlements. So that concludes the basic settlement building restrictions portion of this video. But there are also some general gameplay restrictions that I'll be putting on myself as well. First off, on the subject of realism, of course, I have decided that my character will not be hoarding hundreds of food and chem items in her inventory. I mean, really, how many bottles of water can one person actually carry in their pack, or food items and stim packs and Radaway? I am going to restrict myself to carrying a realistic amount. So for instance, 5 or 6 bottles of water, a few packages of food, 5 or so Radaway, you know, stuff like that. I also won't be carrying thousands of rounds of ammo. I probably won't carry more than 80 to 100 rounds for each of the guns that I carry. And I'm not going to carry like a ton of guns either. And then I will probably sell off or store the stuff that I don't use as soon as I can. So like if I have, you know, a 10mm pistol, for instance, I'll carry 80 to 100 rounds of 10mm ammo on me. And if I get above that amount, I'll store it at home. And if I collect ammo for guns that I don't use, I will sell it. Okay? So to help with that, it's not going to help like 100%, but to help, I will not be putting any more than 3 points into strength, so that it is impossible for me to carry an unrealistic amount of stuff. This excludes junk items. I'm only going to be doing this with bullets and aid items and food because I need junk items to build in my build videos. So I will be collecting all the junk that I can possibly carry, which, you know, won't be much with only 3 strength. And I'm going to start with 2 strength. The reason that I'm going to restrict this to only like 8 items and stuff is because that's the roleplay part of it. Okay, that's the survival part of it. You know, it'll make it more challenging. You know, if I can't carry more than 5 bottles of water, you know, my character will be forced to find water more frequently, you know, and maybe even go thirsty if she can't find any, thus providing an extreme survival situation. And, you know, the same goes for food and chem items or bullets. You know, a fight isn't as risky if you have over 100 stim packs that you can spam throughout the entire thing, right? And, you know, what's the use of even having a hunger and thirst mechanic in the game if you never run out of food and water? It's like, you don't even have a hunger and thirst mechanic. You start getting hungry just a little bit and you instantly pop some food or some water and you're good. And you never run out. So what's the point? The point is to survive. And you know, of course, running out of bullets in a fight, it would be a very interesting predicament, I think. That happened to me once during my testing. I ran out of bullets and I had to run away. You know, so even if I can physically carry 100 stim packs, which I will be able to, I won't do it. You know, that doesn't mean that I won't be picking up every single, you know, stim pack that I find, because I will. You know, it just means that, you know, most of my supplies will be kept back at home and I will be taking only what I can realistically carry with me on a journey. So then I will have the danger of running out. Okay? Got that? Okay, so moving on, but staying on the subject of realism. My character will have never used power armor before in her life, you know, because, you know, she hasn't, unlike her husband, who likely used it and had training to use it in the military. And, you know, one thing that I have never liked about Fallout 4 is that you can use power armor straight out of the vault base, you know, practically, with no training or anything. You just know how to use it. Even the female character who wouldn't have had any contact with power armor prior to this point, right? In previous Fallouts, you had to get special training to even wear power armor. It was endgame gear that you had to work for. And I think that's how it should have been in Fallout 4. You know, especially now that power armor is more like a vehicle that you use rather than something that you wear. I mean, you know, in the other Fallouts, it was armor that you just put on like any other armor. But in Fallout 4, it's a contraption that you have to get inside. And it has its own, you know, operating system. It's not something that you could just get in and act like you've used it your whole life when you never have, right? So I want to make it that way again. You know, my new character is not going to know how to use power armor, and she will not use power armor until much later on in the story. And spoiler alert, she will be joining the Brotherhood of Steel, and that's when she will get the training to use it, okay? Another thing that my new character will not have had training in is the use of firearms. Yes, you could argue that Nate taught her how to shoot a gun before the war or whatever, and, that's perfectly reasonable. However, it's also been done thousands of times. I mean, everyone plays the game already knowing how to use all the guns, right? So, for this Let's Play, I'm gonna say she doesn't. Maybe she's fired a pistol a couple of times, but, that's it. She's never used a rifle or a shotgun, and definitely not a laser weapon or a pipe gun. So, I will be playing her as a weapon noob. Who's not a very good shot, and gradually throughout the series, she will learn how to use the weapons at her disposal. Especially after joining the Brotherhood of Steel and getting formal training. However, I think she will also, still prefer using a pistol, and I will be doing a pistols build, which is something I've actually never done in Fallout 4 yet, so it will be new for me. I've always gone for shotguns or rifles, so yeah, that'll be a new one for me. I basically just wanted to make this playthrough extremely different from my Shane playthrough. So Shane was, ex-military and expert sniper. He knew how to use power armor, although, he didn't prefer it, but he did know how to use it without any trouble. He was confident in combat situations and stuff like that. This new playthrough is going to be the exact opposite of that. So it's different. So I'm not doing the same thing over again. At least not completely, right? Still the same game. But anyway. I will not be doing anything in the Let's Play that my character would not do if given the choice. So, for instance, I won't be exploring raider-filled dungeons just for the heck of it because it's there. Especially at first. Until she learns how to handle herself in combat, every single combat situation is going to be a big deal. And the fact that I could be playing on survival difficulty will make that very true, especially with the mods I'll be using to make it even harder. And that brings us to the next part of this video, where I'm going to talk about some of the different mods that I'll be using, starting with survival mode and combat related mods. So I wanted to make the combat in this playthrough as realistic as possible. So that means making combat deadly. Vanilla survival mode definitely makes combat harder and a little deadlier, but mostly just harder in a bullet spongy kind of way. You know what I mean? That's not what I want. Shooting a guy 12 times in the head before he dies isn't realistic, and I'm going for realistic here. I mean, just shooting a guy 12 times in the head isn't even fun, actually. So I want to be able to bring down a raider in 1 or 2 shots, just like you would in real life. But I also want them to be able to do the same to me, like in real life. So, taking cover will be extremely important. Getting hit by a bullet is supposed to be a scary thing, something that can really mess you up or kill you, right? And, that's what I'm going for in this Let's Play. So, to achieve that, I will be using several different mods. I've done extensive testing on a lot of the different combat mods, and these ones that I'm going to tell you about are the ones I picked, and, also taking into account that this isn't a private playthrough, and so dying over and over and over in the same fight or getting myself into an impossible situation, might be tedious for the viewer. So, while I love the popular Better Locational Damage mod, and would probably use it in my own private playthrough because it's awesome. I mean, I tested it and it was like really cool. I love it. It won't work for the Let's Play. It just makes it too hard. It was too hard. Every combat situation would have taken up the entire episode just because of how hard it was to defeat the enemies, because they were so... they would just shoot me and I'd be crippled and I couldn't run, or I'd pass out, or, different things like that. So the mods that I did pick are similar to it, but simpler. But together they make the combat considerably more difficult. So it's going to be a lot harder to survive during a combat situation. And sometimes it will be impossible, like I'll have to retreat or die. But I'm hoping that I've balanced it out enough so it's not going to be tedious for the viewer. Anyway, so going on to the mods, the first one is Immersive Scaling Damage Dismemberment. So this mod does several things. It improves the max level limit for all NPCs, and then it scales NPCs to the player's level. So this eliminates enemies that are much lower leveled than the player. Similar to how Fallout 76 scales enemies in certain areas based on player level. But unlike Fallout 76, there's no level cap for enemies. So at least how I understand it is they will continue to level with the player. Even if you reach level 200, you'll still be fighting level 200 enemies. At least that's how I've come to understand it. I may be wrong. But anyways, this just makes the game more challenging, even into the end game. So basically no more level 50 players fighting level 1 raiders. It also removes the health scaling bonuses from NPCs and the player to get rid of bullet sponges, and changes the body part modifiers to be realistic. And that means if you get shot in the head, it will likely kill you, especially if you're not wearing a helmet. If you get shot in the arm or leg, it's going to cripple you. And it really works too. In my testing, a super mutant would kill me in 2 shots with a pipe gun. Or 1, depending on where they hit me. If they hit me in the head, they kill me instantly. If I get shot in the arm, it's an instant cripple. And taking cover. So taking cover is going to be extremely important. No more standing out in the open, taking a dozen bullets before needing a stim pack. I will need to carefully plan each combat situation in order to survive it. So this will fundamentally change the way I play the game, which is what I wanted. All these changes are applied to NPCs as well, so they will be taking just as much damage as I will, and if they are crippled, it will affect their performance in combat, especially if they're crippled in the arms. It will cause them to drop their weapon if they get crippled in their right arm, which, it would also do that for me as well. In my testing, it created some very interesting combat situations where, like, I would get shot in the arm, my weapon would become unequipped. I don't think that happens in vanilla survival mode. I might be wrong. I can't remember because it's been a long time since I played vanilla survival mode. But if I remember correctly, if you get shot in the arm, or if your arm gets crippled, I should say, it doesn't make you unequip your weapon. It just makes it very hard to use your weapon. If I'm correct, feel free to correct me if I'm wrong in the comments. But I think that's how it works. Anyways, with this mod, you definitely will drop your weapon, not drop it on the ground, but you will unequip your weapon if you get hit in your dominant arm, your right arm. Anyways, but NPCs as well, it will also affect them the same way. And also, if you end up shooting off an NPC's arm or leg, it won't kill them. So they'll be running around without an arm and won't be able to fight. And also, if you got your own leg shot off, I think this mod disables player dismemberment. So you just get crippled instead. Anyways, another mod that I absolutely love that will make getting injured in combat that much more deadly is Insult to Injury, Survival Limb Damages. This mod does a ton of stuff. So much stuff that I'm not going to list everything here. I will provide the links to all these mods in the description of this video so you can go check them out on your own if you'd like to know more. But basically, it makes it so that stim packs no longer heal limbs, and sleeping doesn't instantly heal limbs either. It adds the ability to get infections in injured limbs, and adds different kinds of bandages to patch yourself up with. Some are like splints that can stabilize a broken limb and allow you to continue using it, while others only help injured limbs heal over time. Many different things affect the ability for the limb to heal properly. Sleep, weather, infection all contribute to that. The condition of your limbs can get worse if you don't take proper care of an injury. And yeah, I just love the realism of this mod, and it makes getting injured a very serious thing. So, while you might survive a fight by running away after getting shot in the arm, you still might die from infection days later, or if you don't have any stabilizing bandages, you may be crippled for a while until you can find a doctor. I mean, that happened during my testing. I got crippled in the leg, which prevented me from running. So it's kind of like when you're over encumbered, you just walk. But I didn't have any bandages, stabilizing bandages on me, and I was miles from the nearest city where there could be a doctor. And without fast traveling, you just have to walk the whole way there. It's very risky to get injured with this mod installed. And also, it alters stim packs quite a bit. It makes them heal you much slower. And the rate is based on your endurance stat. The higher your endurance, the faster the stim pack will heal you. It also applies a 3-hour cooldown timer on the stim pack. I think it's 3 game hours, not 3 real hours. Anyways, but, and that's configurable, actually. You can actually configure that to be less time, and I think I just will for the Let's Play, just so that doesn't annoy viewers as much. But anyways, but also, any stim packs that are taken after the first one will get diminishing returns. So your second stim pack will only heal you half as much as the first one if you take them one after the other. So there's not going to be any more pounding stim packs to survive a fight. If you use one, it's not going to heal you instantly, which I think is more realistic. And it also makes using stim packs a risky thing. It is, after all, an old and probably rusty needle that you're sticking into your body. That shouldn't come without risk. So there is a chance that you can get a disease from using them. So, stim packs are going to be saved for dire situations and probably not used very often, which is what I like about this mod. It forces you to think of other ways to survive a fight. Combat in Fallout, I've always thought was a little too easy because the way stim packs work. They're just too easy. They're too convenient. If you have enough stim packs, you can survive anything. It doesn't matter how many times you get shot, But with this mod, I'll be forced to be careful, to take cover, or even run away from combat, which is, what we do in real life, right? Anyways, the last mod that I have that will help to make combat more difficult and realistic is called No Combat Boundaries. So in Fallout, a combat boundary is a point that the enemies won't cross in order to get to you. Usually a load screen. So like if you're in an interior space and are being chased by enemies, all you have to do to get away from them is to go through the load door and they won't follow you, right? This is rather convenient and nowhere near realistic. Why wouldn't they follow you through the door, right? So this mod just removes that. Enemies will now follow me through load doors, plain and simple. So no using load doors to cheat and escape. So those are the mods that make combat and injury more difficult. And to somewhat counter these in a teeny tiny way, just a teeny way, I'm going to use 2 mods that make it easier to see when you're getting injured. So the first one is called More Noticeable Hit Effect, and it just basically adds a screen effect when you take damage. The mod has several options for the type of effect. I wanted mine to be subtle. I didn't want to suddenly go blind when I'm hit, so I chose the light version. But yeah, as you can see, there's like really hardcore ones that disrupt your vision quite a bit. If you're looking for that kind of thing. This is similar to what they did for Fallout 76. One of the updates added sort of a screen blur when you get hit by a bullet or anything, and I liked it. This one's slightly different, but I liked it. So the other mod is called Better Low Health, and what it does is basically changes the point at which the game will start to tell you that you're dying, like with the heartbeat sound. Vanilla Fallout 4 will apply this effect when you've reached 20% health, which in a tough fight in survival mode, that barely gives you time to take a stim pack or run away before you die, right? So this mod changes that to be at 50% health, although I thought that was too soon. Really, I think it was. So I'm using the 35% option instead. They have that option, so I'm using that. What it also does, though, is it adds a visual effect with a slightly red and slightly blurry screen to simulate being injured. It definitely makes the state of low health scarier. It really makes you feel the urgency to get away to safety or to heal yourself. It reminds me of shooter-type games or adventure games where the screen will turn red or go black and white or something, when you're getting close to death. It's like that. Okay, so that's all the combat-related mods that I'll be using, at least for now. I may add more in the future, and also the last one I talked about with the better low health with the red screen effect and stuff. I might not keep that one. I'm going to wait for your guys' feedback. I'll keep it if you guys like it, and if you don't, I'll get rid of it because I can see how it would be like super based on preference. Not everybody's gonna like that. So I don't mind it, but I don't want to annoy my viewers. So do give me feedback on it when you see it in the game. I'm going to record. I'm going to record a few episodes with it in there. You guys, tell me if you like it or not, and I will, of course, do whatever the majority wants me to do. Anyways, moving on. I'm going to talk about some mods that will enhance survival mode in non-combat related areas, meaning like with making basic survival more challenging and realistic. So first up, I've got customizable needs plus realistic aid side effects, and I absolutely love this mod because it fixes some things in the vanilla survival mode that I've hated since day one. And that is the arbitrary penalties for using aid items as a way to provide balance. What I mean is, like in vanilla survival mode, so using a stim pack, it would make you instantly thirsty, and Radaway would make you instantly hungry, which makes absolutely no sense. It's arbitrary. It's just like, oh, here's a penalty for using a stim pack so that you think twice about using one. No, it's stupid. In a fight, you're like, oh, stim pack, oh no, now I'm thirsty. Oh, Radaway, oh, now I'm hungry. And so now you have to take water and food, and it's just like this stupid ritual you have to go through every time there's a fight. It makes no sense. So this mod fixes that, basically. Not by removing penalties entirely, but by changing them to be more realistic. So for stim packs, they simply drain all your action points when you take one. And while the stim pack's effects are active, it will also cause your action points to regenerate 20% slower. So the reasoning behind this is that stim packs boost your body's stem cells into a frenzy, causing extremely rapid regeneration of tissue, which requires an immense amount of energy. So it would make you really tired. So, on a very basic level, that makes sense. So it just makes stim packs more realistic, and then combined with the other mods that I've already talked about, stim packs they're going to be a really risky thing to take. Not something that you're going to do in the middle of combat. You're going to wait until after combat's over and heal up afterwards, where you can rest and stuff. And I feel like that's how it would really be in real life if such a thing existed. It wouldn't be something that you just take hundreds of them in a row, right? Not to mention it's a needle you're sticking into your body. You wouldn't want to do it unless you had to. So yeah, taking a stim pack will mean that you can't run away for a little while, So you better take that into consideration when you're using one, because you suddenly won't have any AP, and your AP will regenerate a lot slower, so you can't run away. So no more, popping a stim pack and then sprinting to safety, as so many of us do. As for Radaway, this mod removes the penalty of instant hunger. It does retain the other vanilla effect, though, and that being suppressing your immune system and making you weaker, so you're more susceptible to getting a disease when you use Radaway, which I think is fine. It's that stupid getting instantly hungry thing that bothered me. And the other chems have been altered as well. Antibiotics being the most extensively altered one, I think. In the vanilla game, antibiotics, I think, they just cure your diseases, and I think it gives you a brief immunity to catching a new disease with no negative side effects. At least none that I remember, so correct me if I'm wrong on that. I could be getting it confused with Fallout 76, I can't remember. But, but let's face it, in real life, taking antibiotics willy-nilly is going to eventually cause you problems. So this mod has changed antibiotics so that it's riskier to use them. You have a chance to get an antibiotic-resistant bacterial infection, which will take a few days to heal. And the only thing that can heal it is a doctor. You can't heal that with anything else. So the chance of getting this infection is based on your medic perk. So if you don't have any medic perks, the chance is pretty high, like 10%. If you've got medic maxed out, then it goes down to 1%, which is almost never. And also, Rad-X now causes muscle fatigue, which means that your AP will regenerate 50% slower while Rad-X is active. So, you need to carefully consider the use of Rad-X too, especially if you think you'll need to run away. And if you're injured in a high radiation area and you're taking Rad-X and a Stim pack, man, you're not going to be able to run. So you better make sure that you don't have to run away before you take those. Anyway, so that was the first half of this mod. It comes with like 2 modules. The second module, or the first one, whatever, sort of talked about them out of order. The other half of this mod allows you to customize your needs via a holotape. Basically, you can decide how many hours pass before you get hungry, thirsty, and tired. You can customize how many hours you need to sleep before you're well rested. You can toggle the over-encumbered damage effects, which I'm going to turn them off since I hated the fact that if you're over-encumbered, you take occasional damage. I mean, what's up with that? Who weights themselves down so much that they're getting crushed? I mean, just making us walk slow enough is penalty enough. I mean, that's already a pretty bad penalty, right? Is making us walk slow. So I'm going to toggle that off for my game. You can also toggle off and on the disease side effects if you want to, but I won't be doing that because it could toggle off. It could also affect mod-related diseases, mod-added diseases, which would make this mod basically worthless. And you can disable the different bed restrictions for sleeping. So in vanilla survival mode, you can't get a good night's sleep in a sleeping bag for some reason. You're restricted to 3 hours of sleep, and then you wake up no matter how many hours you decided to sleep for. And you can't cure your tiredness unless you sleep for at least 7 consecutive hours. So you can't even sleep for 3 hours in a sleeping bag and then sleep for another 3 hours. And then sleep for another 3 hours. It doesn't stack. So I found this to be just absolutely annoying, especially since there's no way to actually immersively overcome this by getting perks, like survival perks or anything. Now that you've been sleeping out in the Wasteland for a long time, you know how to get a good night's sleep in any situation. Your character is just doomed to never get a good night's sleep unless they're sleeping in a real bed. And it's just stupid. And as an avid camper in real life, I happen to know that it's very possible to get a good night's sleep in a sleeping bag. Anyway, this mod just makes it so all beds are created equal. Now, a quick note about mods that alter Stim packs. They don't play nice together. And this is important for you to know if you plan on using any of the mods that I've talked about that alter Stim packs in any way, okay? if you have a mod that alters stim packs in any way, even if it just alters how much they weigh or how much they cost, it's not going to work well with another mod that does something to stim packs. Your game's not going to blow up or anything. Don't get scared over this. It's just that one mod will overwrite the other, depending on the load order. So that means that, like, if the one that's loaded first will be overwritten by the one that's loaded last, and that means that the first mod will stop working. All right. And so this was a problem for me, obviously, because I have several mods here that are that alter stim packs. Customizable needs and insult to injury each alter stim packs. But I wanted both of them so badly because I absolutely love these mods, and they work in all of the other ways. They work really good together. They complement each other very well. Even in the stim pack area, they complement each other because they don't change the same things to stim packs as the others do. They're different stuff, but still, if anything alters stim packs in any way, it won't work with another mod that alters stim packs in any other way. So anyways, I looked everywhere for patch for these two mods, and I could not find one anywhere. The only patches that I found that would work involved other mods too that I didn't have and didn't want to get. So, and my technically challenged brain doesn't know the first thing about making my own patches. But luckily, one of my patrons, Dinkmeeker, the guy who plays John Nash in my Fallout 76 roleplay, he doesn't have a technically challenged brain and offered to try and make a patch for me, which he did, and it works. So now I can use both mods at the same time. So thank you very much, Dink. You are a lifesaver, and I already thanked you a ton already. But anyways, if any of you viewers of mine want to use more than one mod that alters stim packs, you will need a patch for them in order for them to work. So keep that in mind. And you have to get a patch for each of the mods that you have. And if you add any new mods after you get the patch, if you add any new mods that alter stim packs, you have to update your patch to include that mod too. So I'm just saying my patch might not work for you because you might have different mods than I have. That's all I'm saying. Anyways, another mod I'm going to use to make survival more difficult is called Scavenged Wastes. It basically makes the world empty of stuff. Not completely though. I mean, it doesn't take out everything. It just didn't make sense to me that you can find so much valuable stuff that you find in the vanilla game. Like, stuff is everywhere, you know? As if we're to believe that after 200 years, no one found those stim packs in that box right next to the road. Yeah, right? I mean, really. So what this mod does is it just reduces loot spawns in containers down to 10%. So there's only a 10% chance that you'll find loot in a container. It also alters NPCs, except Gunners, Brotherhood of Steel, and the Institute, so that they have a 90% chance to have nothing but a melee weapon and some crappy armor. The idea being that guns and ammo are rare, so everyone wouldn't have one. And everyone wouldn't also have, combat armor or something like that either. It also decreases the number of bobby pins in the game to somewhere between 40 and 110. So, not only will they be more rare to find, there is not an unlimited number of them in the world. So you can eventually run out if you're not careful. But I do have another mod that will help with that, and I'll talk about that one in a minute. But anyways, to accompany this mod, I will be using two, one called No Stim for You and one called No Food for You. And these are by the same author, and they basically just remove almost all of the stim packs and food spawns in the world. Not every single one, just almost all of them. So that in the world, meaning the stuff that's just lying on tables or the ground, the hand-placed items that aren't not the stuff that's in containers. These two mods don't touch containers, and so that's why I got the Scavenged Waste one. So combined, they remove tons of stuff from the game. and it will make it considerably harder to survive in the Wasteland. And it will also be harder to hoard stuff, which will make my personal gameplay restriction of no hoarding aid items a lot easier to keep. If I can't find them, I can't hoard them, right? And, I also think that these mods contribute greatly to immersion, since a real post-apocalyptic world would be pretty picked through after 200 years, right? And speaking of immersion and my personal gameplay restrictions, I've got a few mods to help with that in other ways as well. So the main one's called Some Assembly Required Power Armor Overhaul. So the reason I'm using this mod is because it always annoyed me that power armor is so prevalent in Fallout 4. I mean, it's everywhere, right? By the time you're level 20, you can have 10 different sets or more, and how is it that all of those power armor frames, they're scattered around, haven't been claimed by people yet after 200 years, especially when, according to the game, you don't even need training to use them. Everyone would be grabbing them, so it's not realistic, and this mod, it fixes it. It basically disables, meaning gets rid of, almost every power armor spawn location in the game. And instead of power armor being everywhere, it just scatters some T-45 pieces and T-51 pieces across the world, and Raider pieces across the world in various places. So like you'll find an arm here and a leg there and a helmet here and stuff like that. And there is only one set of XO1 armor in the entire game, and it is even scattered across the map. So it actually makes it a challenge to get a full set of armor, and you can actually set a goal, make your own little quest to go find the armor, and who knows where it is, right? Not to mention, it's just more immersive, I think. And enemies who spawn wearing power armor will still have power armor. It doesn't remove those as long as they spawn wearing it and don't just have it nearby that they can go get in it. The ones that have it nearby that they can go get in it when you arrive, they won't have power armor anymore. But the ones who spawn in power armor will still have it. So those named NPCs out there that wear it will still have it. But they will always spawn in Raider or T-45, nothing higher than that. So the only way you can get T-60 is to join the Brotherhood of Steel. It even swaps out the Atom Cat's T-60 for T-45. But it gives you the ability to paint the T-45 because you couldn't before. It also makes repairing power armor more difficult. You need more components, more rare components, but it also increases the durability of the armor to balance that out. I love this mod, and it's never leaving my load order because I think it should have been that way in the beginning to make power armor something to be proud to have. It was hard to get this, and now I have it, and it's cool, right? Anyway, another immersion mod that I love is called Scavenger: The Search for Scrap. Basically what it does is allows you to salvage scrap from items out in the world, not just at settlements. It always really kind of annoyed me that, when my character is in desperate need of, whatever, rubber, steel, stuff like that, that I have to go find a basketball and a desk fan in some building somewhere instead of just getting it from that tire and that wrecked car on the side of the road, like you would normally do in real life, or just even inside your settlements you can get it from tires and cars, but not when you're outside your settlements. So with this mod, if you go up to a tire or a car out in the world, you can loot it and get some rubber or some steel. When you just go up, it'll give you the option to salvage or whatever, depending on what it is. Sometimes you can pick it up. It allows you to salvage small junk items too. Like I could pick up that basketball and have the basketball in my inventory, or I could choose to salvage the basketball and that will just put rubber into my inventory instead, and then I don't have to actually have the basketball in my inventory. There's that option as well. It's actually a pretty configurable mod. You can decide which items in the world, which types of items you want to be able to salvage and which ones you don't. So you can also decide whether or not it destroys the item when you salvage it or if it stays in the world. I'm going to probably be choosing to keep things in the world, especially large objects, because when you start removing large objects from the world outside of settlements, it can start messing with your game, and you could ruin your game if you remove too many things. So I would recommend, if you use this mod, to set it so that it doesn't scrap objects, it actually removes them from the world when you salvage them. So just keep that in mind. And you know, I understand that some people might think that this sort of might counter my Scavenged Wastes mod, where I have a mod that makes it harder to get stuff, harder to get loot, and then a mod that makes it so you can get loot from everything. Well, I didn't install Scavenged Wastes to reduce junk items and junk spawns. It does that. It does reduce some junk spawns, but that's not why I got it. I got it to reduce bullets, spawns, ammo spawns, food, aid, items, that kind of thing. So junk is everywhere. That's just a fact. The world is junk. That's all that exists in the world now is junk. Everything you look at is junk. And in real life, you would go up to wrecked cars and buildings and things, and you would salvage those things. You wouldn't walk by them and be like, oh, I'm all out of steel. Where can I be? Where can I find some? I'm in the middle of a junkyard and I can't even find any steel. Yeah, that's unrealistic. And it always bothered me. So, I figure, hey, there's the junk. It's everywhere. That's not what's supposed to be scarce. It's the valuable items that's supposed to be scarce. Anyways, that's all about that one. On the subject of collecting junk, I will be using a mod called Salvage Beacons. So this one's really helpful. This will be very helpful for my character because of her low strength. She will be always getting over encumbered. So this mod allows you to craft beacons, and then you can assign a settler to communication station. And you go, when you get over encumbered, you can place all your junk into a container, and then you put a salvage beacon in the container, and it will alert the settler who's assigned to the communication station, and they will send out a salvage party to go get it. So they'll send out a settler to go get your junk, and they will go get your junk, and you can decide which settlement you want them to take it to, and they will take it there, and it will be there, and then you don't have to worry about dropping all of your stuff just to pick it all back up again later down the line, right? Which is what I do all the time. And also, this will provide me with an easily explainable way to carry out my idea of how my character will find generators and turrets out in the world and tag them for settlers to come and get later. I can just put a beacon in a container nearby and pretend that the settlers are also picking up the generator while they're there. So I just thought it was a cool visual way to reinforce my roleplay. Anyway, moving on. I will be using Darker Nights. Since the Vanilla Nights, I think, are so bright, sometimes it feels like it's an overcast day with stars in the sky. And if you watched my first Fallout 4 Let's Play, where I used the PS4 version of Darker Nights for a while, don't worry, it's not going to be that dark. The PS4 version wasn't configurable, so it just added the darkest version of night, which was pitch black, basically. The PC version has several different darkness levels, and I chose the medium one. which makes the night considerably darker, but still light enough to see ahead of you. And you know, I can always adjust the brightness level again if you guys think it's still too dark. So do give me feedback on that once the episodes come out and you've watched a few of them. Let me know if it's too dark and I can lighten it a little bit more. I will be using the mod Campsite, Simple Wasteland Camping, which allows you to put down tents and campfires and sleeping bags and cooking pots and, you know, pretty much anywhere in the world, and a bunch of other stuff too, like there's a bed for Dogmeat to sleep on and different things. So no more searching for random beds in dangerous areas to get a good night's sleep while traveling. Yeah, I can find a safe place to make camp like normal people do. And some of you who are familiar with the PC mods might be wondering why I'm not using Chesco's camping mod. And it's because it's too complex for what I wanted. I did test it. I like it. It's just for the amount of realism I'm going for. I didn't want to use the workshop format. You know, so in Chesco's mod, you basically drop a small workshop, and then you can open the build menu, and then you can build the camping items. I didn't want to do that because I'm trying to go for ultimate realism here, and I'm trying to avoid the build menu being even in the videos at all. So simple wasteland camping, you have the tent and you have the cooking pot and your sleeping bag. It's all in your inventory, and all you do is drop it on the ground and it's there and you can use it. So you don't have to use the build menu. So that's why I'm using Campsite, Simple Wasteland Camping. Just in case you're wondering, because I'm sure some people will ask me. Since I think Chesco's mod is a little bit more popular, because you can also, it's more involved. You can turn your campsites into settlements later on, anywhere in the world that you want. So I think it's more popular just because of that. But yeah. Anyways. Moving on to companions. I'm not going to be using too many companion mods, but one I will be using is called Everyone's Best Friend, Dogmeat and Companion at the same time. It does exactly what the title says. It allows you to have Dogmeat and a companion follow you at the same time. It basically just adds this back into the game. It was originally intended to be this way in the game. You were supposed to have Dogmeat and a companion. People know this by looking at the code and whatnot, and so this mod just adds this ability in the way it should have been. There are mods that let you have all of the followers if you want, unless you basically have unlimited followers, but I don't really feel like using one of those, since I don't plan on having everyone follow me around, and really, if everyone followed me around, I would never fit through a door ever again. I mean, they would be all blocking the doors, and they would be shooting everything before I can get even a hit on it and stuff like that. So I am not going to use all of the followers. But I do want to keep Dogmeat with me all the time, and I always want to have at least one human follower. So this mod was perfect for me. It just never made sense to me that you would leave your best canine bud at home just so you could bring Preston with you, right? So Dogmeat is here to stay, and everyone else can come and go. That's how I feel about that. There are so many more immersion mods that I'm going to use, but I just can't tell you about every single one of them in this video, or it would be 3 hours long. There is one more that I think I should mention, though. Since I will be using it quite a bit, and it will even affect the format of my roleplay episodes a little bit. It's called Journal of the Soul Survivor Personal Journal. It gives you a holotape that you can write your own stuff in, whatever you want, from a grocery list to a diary, you know, whatever. You can use it on the Pip-Boy or on any terminal. So it's pretty cool. So what I was thinking is that my character would keep a journal, and I could start each episode, or at least, you know, some of them, by writing in the journal. Not really long entries, just sort of a setting the scene kind of thing. since I'm not going to be having any out-of-character moments, I won't be able to do my traditional episode introduction where I'm like, hello everyone, welcome back to the Let's Play. Here we are, here, and this is what we're doing, and this is what we need to go do now. I'm not going to be doing those kinds of intros. It's going to just be straight into the action, straight into character, and no explanation. And so I thought that this journal would be a good idea to immersively tell you guys what's going on. My character can write about it. Anyway, yeah, I just thought it would be a more immersive and in-character way to accomplish the same thing. So, there you go. So, this video is getting pretty long. I'm sorry, you guys. I didn't want it to be this long, but again, there's so many mods to talk about, and these are only the ones that are going to be super obvious changes to the game. So I'm just going to try to hurry up and mention the last few mods before I wrap this up. They're going to be mostly like more simple ones, but ones that are going to be obvious still. I will be using several texture mods to make the game look better, but I'm not going to talk about which those are because I'm using quite a few. So I will leave a list of those in the description below so you can go look at them if you want to. The one I am going to mention that I'm going to talk about a little bit more detail here is True Grass. I'm talking about that one because it will make the game look different in a completely different way than just making textures look better. It adds more grass, and it also makes grass green. Not in an early spring kind of green, more like a midsummer sun-bleached green, if that makes any sense. So yeah, and it increases the grass density, so there's more grass, and it also adds a few other plant textures as well for variety. The reason I'm using this mod, well, and I don't personally like mods that I didn't want the Wasteland to look pre-war. I didn't want leaves to be on the trees and green grass everywhere and perfect lawns and stuff like that. I didn't want it to look like that. I wanted to keep the vanilla look of the game as much as I could, but I also never liked the fact that the grass was dead. For one thing, 200-year-old dead grass would be rotted away by now, and so there wouldn't be any grass. And why wouldn't there be grass? What's causing the grass to not grow? Grass is one of the most resilient plants on Earth. It can grow almost anywhere, in almost any environment if given enough water, right? Whole deserts will turn green if enough rain falls on them. The Commonwealth doesn't lack water, so that can't be why the grass isn't growing. I mean, even if the grass was burned away, it would still grow back eventually, and it doesn't even take very long for grass to grow back after a fire. So especially after 200 years it would be grown back. So anyway, in my game, there's going to be grass, but it doesn't look like the pre-war grass. It's wilder looking, if that makes any sense. And I'm not putting any leaves on the trees, so don't worry about that. There are a few quality of life mods that I'm going to be using. Most of them are just mods that like enable fast travel and menu saves while in survival mode. I need these for behind the scenes video making purposes and for mod testing. I will not be using any fast travel in the Let's Play though, it's just for behind the scenes related stuff. I thought it would be fun to use a mod that changes lockpicking a little bit. It's called Locky Bastard, and it allows you to get into locked doors and containers with more than just bobby pins. You can kick doors open, or shoot the lock, or even blow up the lock, even if the lock is higher than your lockpick skill. And then there's always the chance that you could break a lock when you shoot it, and this would make it impossible to open after that, short of blowing it up. And there's also a chance that you could hurt your leg by kicking open doors. So it just makes getting into locked things more interesting, especially if you run out of bobby pins, right? Which would be quite possible in my game with the Scavenged Wastes installed that makes bobby pins limited. Not just in availability, but also in in number, total number in the game. I could eventually run out, and this mod would come in very handy. The last mod that I'm going to mention, but definitely not the least, is called Danse GTFO Power Armor. It's just a simple mod that lets you tell Paladin Danse to get out of his power armor, and he will. it will just help with my immersion, you know, because in the vanilla he doesn't ever get out of his power armor, and it ruins my immersion. He never sleeps. He never does anything except stand around, right? And it will also prevent me from shooting him in the face out of annoyance, because I get tired of him clunking along behind me and ruining my sneak and stuff like that. So it will just make having him as a companion more bearable. So there you have it, everyone. That is the most prominent mods. Those are the most prominent mods that you'll notice in the new Let's Play. And again, I will always list all of the mods that I'm using in the descriptions of each episode. So if you want to learn about the ones that I didn't mention here, you can do that. Stay tuned to my channel for the next installment of this introduction, where I will show you my new character and talk about her backstory and her perks and specials and stuff like that. I should be getting that up very soon, hopefully this week sometime. So, yeah, I will talk about the different settlement building mods that I'm going to use in another video as well. I probably won't make that one until closer to when I start doing the new build videos, which won't be until after I've gone a little ways into my Let's Play and my characters, you know, starting up settlements and stuff like that. So I will let you know closer to when that's happening. Anyway, until then, you all have a wonderful day, and remember to play safe, play nice, and have fun. Bye, guys.